Hey, we're back at Grimm's Auto Service. We got an '04 Grand Cherokee. The power windows and door locks weren't working, and it had no communication with the driver's door module. And I started looking into it, and you can see here a whole bunch of, I already pulled the wires and stuff through, but I found some broken wires in the door flex, and apparently somebody else has been here and just taped things up. But then you can also see a bunch of other wires. You can see where they're cracking and about to break. I can pull that out here good where you can see it. So we're gonna end up chopping these off and running new through the whole door flex. I looked up underneath and there's no big master connector underneath the dash to where we could just easily replace the door flex with a new one. So I guess I can look on the computer and see if there's any out there where you can just splice them up further. I might check that before we do this repair. I looked on Napa and they didn't show a replacement connector, but on Rock Auto they're showing one. It looks like the correct connector. There's a part number and it looks like it's about $46, but it comes with the pins and you have to pin it in, and it comes with the shrink tube and everything, but you still have to solder the one end in. So I'm going to see if there's enough sticking out of the wire connector like down in here, so we can just solder there and get this guy's stuff going back again. You know, it's not the greatest Jeep in the world, so I don't think he wants to spend a ton of money on it. That's a lot of money for just a little connector. If you look here, this black wire, somebody just put a butt connector and then had it all wrapped with black electrical tape. This one I just actually cut the shrink tube off of it. Somebody did solder it and put a shrink tube on it, which is what we're gonna do, and hopefully it'll last him a little while anyway. Like I said, I don't think he's got or wants to spend a ton of money on this. What we did was we pulled the broken wires up here, and I'll cut off the bad spot and then solder on a new piece of wire and then pull it back through the wire flex and then solder it down here as close as I can away from the bad stuff. Unfortunately, I just looked and I'm kind of short on other colors of wire, and the parts store's already closed now because I'm working after hours here. So like right now I'm going to end up putting a blue wire. As long as they're the same gauge here, well, it should be fine. We'll do one wire at a time so they don't get mixed up, and we'll get it all back together, and nobody will ever know unless it breaks again. Hopefully it'll last the life of the vehicle. Well, I got my butane soldering iron fired up. I cut myself a short piece of wire here. Twist them together. Sorry if the colors don't match, but that's gonna have to work for this guy. Try to get this on the camera. You always want to heat up the wire. And touch the solder onto the wire, so that way it's not a cold solder where they're just barely stuck together. We'll let it cool for just a second here. And then I've got some shrink tube. We'll slide down over that. Usually I've got it's like a paint stripping heat gun. I can use that, or a little mini torch, or I'm just using the heat that's coming out of the, if you can see the glowing red there, out of the butane torch or soldering iron. We'll get that shrunk down. Then we're going to pull it through the door flex. Get that pulled through there with, I'll get snagged on everything. A hard time there. Keeps on catching on all the little bumps and stuff. Here, we're going to try something different here. I got myself a piece of stiffer wire, so I can just push that up and through there. Try to get it hooked on the very end of my new wire. Come on, baby. There. You can see I got plenty of extra there. I'm going to pull that one up to make sure that the solder joint's not going to be inside the door flex, because that spot's going to be stiff and it'll usually break right next to the solder joint, just like this one did. I'll slide that up and give me a little extra room. Got another piece of shrink tube. You want to make sure you put your shrink tube on before you solder it. It's nothing worse than getting done soldering it and then you don't have the shrink tube on. You got to chop it out, and then sometimes you won't have enough extra wire. You got to put a whole nother piece in. A lot of times it's a good idea to just rub your finger around it after it's cooled down a little bit. Make sure there's no little pokies that when you put the shrink tube on that are going to poke through the shrink tube. We'll shrink this one down. After we get this one done, I'll just do the rest of them off camera. I don't need to bore you with fixing a ton of wires. We'll just show you what the end product looks like. And this shrink tube's supposed to be the waterproof kind. It's got like a little wax or sealant or something that squeezes out the ends of it to make it waterproof. I got that one done. Sometimes, like if it's in the door flex, I'll try to leave a little extra and kind of tuck it up in there. That way it's not going to flex right on our solder joint. You can push that down in there. But now we'll do the rest of these and we'll show you what it looks like when we're done. This is what I ended up with. You can see I tucked my shrink tube, the soldered ends in there, so hopefully those little flex up here higher. Instead of cutting every single one of those and patching them in, I looked at the odometer on the vehicle, and it's got 200 and almost 270,000 miles on this thing, so I can't imagine, you know, this thing lasting tons longer. I guess if one of these other ones break, but I just smeared some liquid electrical tape over the exposed wire. Before I did that, I actually pulled on each one of them and made sure they're really strong and not gonna just break off next week or something. And then you can see, like after I pull this down, all my, here, gotta move here. All my solder connections are gonna be on the inside of the vehicle, so none of the closest connections we have are the ones down here to the door flex. So we'll finish putting the rest of this back together and see if it works. There you can see how many miles are on this hot rod. But if you look, now we've got door locks that are working. Driver's door. All 4 windows are working. And let's try out this mirror. Looks like everything's working now. So this is how we did repairing the driver's door flex, where the wires run through going to the driver's door. This is kind of a budget one. We could have done it a little better by getting the connector, but that was almost $50, and with this many miles on it, we don't know how much longer this thing's going to last. So I'm confident this thing should probably last as long as the rest of the vehicle. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give us a like and subscribe. Otherwise, let us know what you don't like or comment on it. Otherwise, have a good night.